The tool which has made this possible is the high-speed digital computer.
Hello and welcome to CleverIT's first video in a series of videos that we'll be doing on the Dell Venue Pro 8. Now, we're doing something a little bit special with the Dell Venue Pro 8 because we're actually going to be giving one of these away at Beat the Plumber's upcoming golf tournament. So we thought it'd be a good opportunity for us to put together a few videos just sort of focusing on this to obviously help the winner. Congratulations if that's you watching now. But also partially to kind of help reintroduce people to our company. We've recently rebranded the company. We were formerly known as Clever Concierge. Now we are known as CleverIT, just to sort of simplify things a little bit. There'll be some people who will be a little disappointed that we got rid of the Clever Concierge and went with something else, but it's really more in line with our company goals. So without further ado, we're going to have a few videos here where we're going to be talking about the Dell Venue Pro 8. We're going to try and keep it as simple as possible, cut them up into only a few minutes each, just so that way people can kind of pinpoint exactly what it is that they need. So let's jump in. The Dell Venue Pro 8 is actually a Windows 8.1 tablet. This is it right here. As you can see, it's fairly small. It is quite nice, actually. We've had a chance to play around with it. I will say this, we've done our best to clean it up, but there will be fingerprints aplenty on this device by the time we finish. So a couple of bits of information for you with regards to it. I sort of have a little sheet here with some specs on there, so if you're kind of curious why I'm looking down, that's why. This actually comes with an Intel Atom processor. Now, it's a little bit different than what some of the more tech-savvy viewers might be used to. The Intel Atom processor that's in this is actually a quad-core, and it operates up to 1.8 gigahertz. The reason why it's up to 1.8 gigahertz is that's what actually helps with the battery life. This has got a 9.9 hour battery life. And by having a processor that only scales up to 1.8 gigahertz, it basically means that it kind of stays at the lower thresholds for day-to-day use, things that aren't going to require a lot of CPU power. So as a result, it allows it to kind of keep that battery life. So if you're doing something that's very, very resource intensive on this, obviously you're not going to hit that 9.9 hour battery life. It's going to be less than that, but that's sort of how they manage things. And that's common with most tablets, not just the Dell. It has an 8-inch display. It's an HD display, so it's 1280 by 800. What that basically means is that if you're ever watching any kind of high-definition videos on this, it's going to look really good. It's going to look native. It's going to look very, very crisp. It comes with 2 gigs of DDR3 RAM, so that's a little on the low end, but for an 8-inch tablet, it's really not an issue. And after having played with this, you're really not going to notice a problem, unless you're getting into some really, really intense stuff, which at the end of the day, you're not really going to be able to, and we're going to get to that and tell you why. Really, one of the caveats of this, one of the deal breakers for some people, is the fact that this specific model is the 32 gig model. They also have a 64 gig model. It's a bit more expensive, but this one's a 32 gig model, and this is the most common model that you're going to find. It's also the one that most people will have access to currently. Microsoft's have been doing a really good job of actually promoting these. They've been selling them really cheap. Most recently here in Calgary with the opening of their Microsoft store. You could pick them up for $99. So as a result, really, really popular. Now, with the limited storage, obviously that's an issue. Now, what Microsoft has done to sort of counteract that, and we'll get a close-up of this later, but there is a spot here to put in a micro SD card. Very similar to the SD cards you find in the camera, except they are much smaller. Some Android devices support the micro SD cards. Now, the big thing here with the micro SD cards, and this is really important, is that on Dell's website, and I think also on Microsoft Store, it indicates that it supports micro SD, SDHC, and SDXC. Now, SDHC and SDXC are basically just higher performance versions of a standard SD card. Now, that threw me off a bit when I first saw it, and the reason why it threw me off is because I saw that and I thought, oh, okay, so it has a slot for micro SD, but it also has a slot for full-size SD cards. It does not. It's just micro SD, but it's micro SD HC, micro SD XC, and of course a regular micro SD. But it's a little bit confusing because they actually have it separated on the Dell website as micro SD, and then separately SDHC, and then separately SDXC. So it's a little bit confusing, but the bottom line is it has to be a micro SD. If you go and buy a regular SD card, you're not gonna be able to put it in here. All right, so it must be a micro SD. And in fact, what I'd recommend that you do is pick up a class 10 micro SDHC card. We got one from Memory Express, Kingston. Again, class 10 is important because that means that it's rated higher and better. We picked one up at $25, Memory Express, a couple of weeks ago. Used it on this actually, and it worked fantastic. In a later video, we'll actually show, sort of how to put it in, so you can kind of understand that, and it's very simple. Now, and a very important point on the micro SD card. Now, once you boot this up and you turn it on, you are not going to have 32 gigs of available disk space on this machine. You're gonna have about 12 because Windows is gonna take up 20. Now, this is with almost no applications installed. One application that is already installed is the Office Home and Student 2013. That is actually included with this, which is a really good deal. You don't see that very often. So it actually comes with the license for Office Home and Student, which will include the staples like Word and Excel. You don't get Outlook, but that's okay. For the most part, most people won't really need it. But as a result, you don't have a lot of disk space. And even if you put in a micro SD card, you're still limited in what you can do with that space. I mean, you can store music videos, obviously, but unfortunately, you can't do things like install applications to it necessarily. Some applications you might be able to, some you're gonna run into some problems. So it's just important to keep that in mind, okay? Now, that being said, that pretty much covers up all the specifications. It is running Windows 8.1 and it does come with Windows 8.1, which is great. So that's a big plus there because it's already been upgraded, but of course there are still going to be a lot of updates that will need to be installed. So let's take a closer look at this device up close and as best as we can. All right, so take a look here. This is the device here. We'll just kind of turn it around. Now over on this side, this is where you're actually going to see some important things. So first of all, this is actually where the micro SD port is. So that's where that goes. If you go a little bit further down here, you're going to see there's volume and then the power button. Okay. On the top here, you're going to see that there's actually a start button. Okay, so the start button is there. The start button is not actually going to be at the top, or sorry, at the front of the device. It's literally right there on the top, which is good, but it's a little bit different. Most Windows 8 tablets actually do have it on the top here, but that's not the case here. There's also a headphone jack there, and that's important. The other thing that's on the side here that we kind of skipped over is right there. You're going to see a micro USB port. This is actually how the device charges. This is also there because it allows you to do something a little bit unique. There's an adapter that you can get that will plug into here and allow you to plug in regular USB devices. That includes USB hard drives for additional space. You can mouse, keyboard, there's a lot of stuff. We actually have one, and we're going to take a look at that in one of the other videos as well. On the back here, you're going to see there's the nice little Dell logo. Let's turn that around for you. Intel inside, and this back's actually quite nice. It's you can't really tell from the picture, but it's got a good feel to it. It allows you to keep a decent grip, so that's important. Again, I mean, we've done our best to try and get fingerprints off of here, but I mean, I'll do that, and you're going to be able to see that, and that's going to come through pretty quickly. There's not really a whole lot that we can do about that, but there you go. So that's the first video. Put that out of the way. Thanks for joining us. We're going to take a look at what your first steps are going to be when you get this thing booted up. Those videos will be a lot shorter. This one is probably going to run closer to about 10 minutes, but it is the intro. So if you have one of these tablets, enjoy. If you're thinking about getting one, we definitely recommend it, and more to come. Thanks for joining us.